All right, so About to Sleep asks, how can the left stop infighting and get behind progressive candidates to actually win elections? I mean, I'm sure you could write a whole book on how that is possible, but in a short amount of
Well,
time, what do you think?
I'm going to first of all lament the passing of my very, very dear friend, Michael Brooks. Okay. Michael was unwilling to fall. He really was. This is now, we're talking, it seems like so long ago and yet so
Mm-hmm.
close. So that's Michael. I did a show, Michael's show a lot. I did one of his, I mean, Michael and I were very close. We were in daily contact. And one thing I knew was that Michael was utterly, I mean, he's really pissed off about the emerging infighting on the left.
And it's
And
only
I think
gotten
if
worse.
Michael, and it's only gotten worse, right? And I think if Michael had lived, if he had still around, that tragedy had not occurred, I think he would have been a significant voice in compelling us to not allow ourselves to get sucked into this kind of stuff. And it's just, I mean, I will tell you that look, I have no affection whatsoever for the likes of Jimmy Dore. I'll make that very clear. I've never listened to him. I used to appreciate him when I was on the Young Turks. I thought he was part of a sort of broad left kind of politics, but I just think that that's been ruinous for the left. So, how to transcend it? Let's ask ourselves: what is the left supposed to be about? It's supposed to make American and people around the world, supposed to make their lives better, right? And how do you do that? Well, for a start, you not only think grandly, you also think on the ground kinds of things. What? Okay. So my feeling is that we on the left, if we are not aligned with workers and the labor movement, we will never prevail. To my mind, if you do not have a small d democratic, small p progressive labor movement, you do not ever find a successful left. And partly this infighting on the left is a consequence of the fact that labor has yet to be revived and become more democratically aggressive as it has been in the past. So we should give our energies in favor of the labor movement and other social movements that are seeking to improve the lives of everyday Americans. But I'm a labor unionist, and I think that the left must align itself as much as possible with these percolating struggles of workers from Starbucks and Kellogg's to Alabama mine workers and Amazon workers. And wherever workers are struggling to get a democratic voice in the workplace, that's where a lot of our energies and solidarity should go.
All right. I have a very good, like, kind of similar question that is on this too that I want to throw at you from The Wasting Times. And so The Wasting Times asked if you have any particular, I'm not sure if you've heard of Richard Wolff's opinion on the Freedom Convoy thing going on. But like, there's a lot of these like right wing, like we were talking about how the right wing hijacks like things like
Yeah,
life, liberty, and
right.
they've also been trying to hijack these like, what they call themselves like worker, like we want rights, we're anti-mandate for the workers, but like, a lot of the times they're just funded by like right wing groups, and they're really just trying to distract and just kind of tear things apart. But I
And by the way, what you just said is what I think.
Okay. Yeah. So, but they're asking if you have any particular opinion on, like, Richard Wolff's opinion, which you may or may not know, but that.
I'm not familiar enough with his specific opinion.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, my thinking is that we have to reach out to labor. I find, look, the anti-vaxxing and anti-mask mandates, the movements that are seeking to undo that, we know where the monies are coming from. We know what they're about. I look, anybody who thinks that we're going to somehow appropriate the Freedom Convoy or anything like it, I think I think they're fooling themselves, and I wouldn't bother to debate it. There's smarts and there's not smarts.
All right. I like that answer. That pretty much sums up my thoughts too. So we have another question as well. We have a historically strong anti-radical, anti-populist force in the Democratic Party establishment that is known to co-opt and break left movements. How do we get around this?
Well, let's start with the word solidarity. Okay. Now, the first thing is we can't be purists. Okay, we can't be purists. So if indeed the person who's running locally who has a chance of winning and holding on to a Democratic seat and is not challenged by a progressive, then You hold your nose and you vote for the Democrat. That's what you got to do. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying that we're not going to fight to make the squad a greater presence. I am saying that. Okay. If there's a progressive who's running in a primary, you support the progressive. If the progressive loses and the Democrat is a centrist, it's far better. It's far, far better to see that centrist back in Congress than to see the Republicans take seats. I don't buy catastrophe theory. Catastrophe theory says if you can force the catastrophe, you're going to emerge from the catastrophe with a more progressive politics. This goes back to a kind of, I don't know, it's almost a Stalinist view of things, okay? It just doesn't happen. If it was true, then we would have ended up with a more progressive leader than Obama. If it's true, we would have ended up with a more progressive leader than Biden. Catastrophes guarantee nothing. Action, politics, supporting the right candidates, that's what makes things happen. And in fact, if you think about catastrophes historically, think about the early 30s, we were lucky that out of our catastrophe, we emerged with Franklin Roosevelt. But if you think about what happened in Central Europe, they ended up with Nazis and fascists. Okay,
it doesn't always go the right way, for sure.
And merely because Nazis and fascists takes power doesn't mean that people come to see the light and all of a sudden join socialists in their politics. I mean, does that help sort of get it?
It gets a little bit going. It's all good.